Well, good afternoon, Byron Wood. It's been a very long time since I last spoke to everybody, did an assembly. So, in these strange times, we're going to do assemblies in a strange way. So, this is going to be my assembly. You know the sorts of assemblies I like to do. A bit of story, and with any luck, a bit of music. Don't worry though, I am not going to sing. Not today, anyway. Not even got my guitar out. So, I'm going to talk to you today about this flag, which should now appear on your screen. You might have seen this flag over the last few days from last Thursday. Last Thursday was the 23rd of April, which is, in England, is St George's Day. Now, St George is the patron saint of England. Each of the countries in Great Britain have a different patron saint. St Andrew in Scotland, St Patrick in Ireland, and St David in Wales. England, we have the patron saint of St George. A patron saint is a concept that we have in Christian countries, where basically each country has chosen a different important person from the Christian history who they feel represents the ideas of their country. Quite a few countries have chosen St George. We're not the only ones. Also Spain and Portugal have got St George as their patron saint as well. So why did they choose St George? I've done a bit of digging. About St George and found out a few facts. The facts are actually pretty hard to come by because he existed about, what did I read? It was about 1,900 years ago. So we don't have a lot of facts from back then. We know stories, we know what we've been told. So the stories tell us that he lived in the part of Europe which is now Turkey. He was a soldier in the Roman army. Now, at the time, the Romans believed in a whole bunch of gods. Gods for every aspect of their life. A god who was in charge of war, a god who was in charge of growing food, a god in charge of animals, a god in charge of the sun. But St George was a Christian, so he believed in just one god. Now, this did not go down well with the Roman army. They tried to make him give up his faith, to stop being a Christian. He refused, and so he was executed. He was killed by the Roman army. Christians celebrate him because he did not give up his faith. He stuck to his guns. He said, "This is what I believe in, and I won't change." So that's why he was considered to be an important person and was made into a saint, one of the important people in the Christian religion. It actually appears in some Islamic texts as well, because he, as a religious person, believed in just one God, and he, again, just stuck to those guns, wouldn't give it up. So he appears in Islamic texts as well. Now, that's not the only story about St George, and it's certainly not the most famous one, because when people started talking about St George, they wanted a story that was a little bit more exciting. So they invented a myth, a legend around him. And the story, the very famous story, is St George and the Dragon. Basically, in what is now Libya, there was a dragon which was eating things in the countryside. To stop the dragon from attacking people, they started giving it 2 sheep a day. And when they started running out of sheep, and the dragon, started to get a bit bored of a mutton-based diet, they started to feed it people. Very unpopular decision, everybody very upset. It got particularly bad when the next person due to be eaten by the dragon was the king's daughter. The king did not want his daughter eaten, asked for volunteers. "Please, somebody else, come and be eaten by this dragon." Not a huge surprise that nobody came forward and volunteered. Yeah, I'll be eaten by a dragon, of course I will. No, didn't happen. Nobody did. But then to town rode George. George in his shining armour, on a big horse. "I will kill your dragon, do not fear, your majesty." And off he rides bravely, finds the dragon up in his cave, and gets one of these enormous, great big lances, a massive spear thing, and gallops straight headlong at the dragon. I'm sure that there are extremely detailed stories about fire breathing, scorching him, about his eyebrows being burnt off, but how he bravely swung his sword around and his mighty shield, and crying the name of God, plunged his lance straight into the dragon's side, killing it dead. Very famous story. Total nonsense, but a really good story. And so, on the 23rd of April, when England celebrates St George's Day, you see a red cross on a white background, remembering St George, and you see pictures of knights in armour, on horseback, killing dragons. So why am I choosing now to tell you about it? 23rd of April was last week. Well, because, as some of you know, I love aspects of British culture. I love the music, I love the celebrations, I love the festivals, I love the dance. Now, around St George's Day, English dancers called Morris dancers go out and celebrate. They just celebrate the whole Englishness of things. Taking old aspects of English culture and sharing them with the rest of the world. And last Saturday, I was meant to be out. I was meant to be dancing, celebrating St George's Day. And, well, we're not allowed to do that anymore. Not at the moment. So I decided to do something a little bit different. I decided to go out and do my St George's Day dance completely on my own. It's something that's called a jig. That's when you do your Morris dance just by yourself. I've never done that before. I had to learn the dance. I had to give my time practicing, having a go, getting better, asking for advice, sending videos to my friends and saying, what bits am I getting wrong here? I had to learn the music. I had to play the music because I didn't have anybody else around who could play it for me. So I spent a bit of time learning and practicing. And in the end, I learnt my dance. I recorded my music, so I had something to dance to. And I went out on the street and danced it. And just as a nice thing, I thought I'd raise a bit of money as well. And delightfully, my neighbours all came out on the street, watched me dance, and some of them had donated money to the NHS, which, you know, is a good thing and helps people who need it desperately at the moment. So, this was my dance. The other day, we'd normally be dancing in Sheffield at the moment, so I thought I'd come and dance here instead. This is a dance called Over the Hills from the village of Oddington. So. So maybe you would like to take a bit of time to learn something new. I learned to dance, I learned a new song. What could you learn in this time? Maybe you'd like to do something to raise some money. On the video you'd have seen that there were 2 websites that you can send donations to. Could you do something really nice that you could tell your friends, your family, your neighbours about? You don't have to go out in the street to do it. You could do it in your house and just tell them about it and raise some money. Because in these strange times, every little helps, really. Well, stay safe. I hope that this entertained you and possibly even educated you. Who knows? I very much look forward to being able to tell you stories and give you music in person again. Hopefully it won't be too long. Stay safe.